The president and his team signed a deal with the Rassemblement, the main opposition party, as part of the democratic process to ease political tension, try to suppress violence that have, you know, here and there spurred in some parts of the country. What happened? Democratically, DRC was supposed to have a smooth transition. What happened?
Well, they signed the deal, and of course, they also have a prime minister as a result of that deal, except that, of course, the major opposition party feels that the prime minister should probably have been someone else. We're talking about Felix Tshisekedi, right, son of the late Tshisekedi, of course. You know, we stayed there for several days. To be very honest with you, everything seemed to be normal, at least in the capital, Kinshasa. You hear a lot about the war, people fighting, of course, in Kasai, people fighting on the eastern DRC and what have you, but we didn't see anything of that sort. We pretty much interacted with the people who were going about their normal type of business. We went to markets, we went to downtown. In fact, I remember that I had, I think, what you would call, I shaved my hair twice, paying about $10 on each trip. We did talk to people, and people, of course, were very, very anxiously waiting for the upcoming elections, if at all, of course, they are going to be held. The government says that they have been registering voters, and so far they have registered at least about 40 million people. That's what they say. And they say that they should be having elections anytime soon. From what I was able to see and the people that I was able to interact with, including the president, I honestly do not think that you're going to see an election held this year. If there is going to be an election, it's probably going to happen sometime next year. In fact, some sources tell me that probably around the spring. When you talk about you talk about the deal, or you talk about, in fact, about a constitutional crisis. No, I don't think there is going to be a constitutional crisis, because if you recall, the Constitutional Court itself, as a matter of fact, is on the same page with the government. It says that you can only have Kabila step aside only if there is another president or a new president who is being sworn in to take his place. So you have to wait for the elections.
Paul, what did you get from the opposition, you know, figures that you spoke with, interacted with there about their fight? Because some people in parts of the country where they don't necessarily support the president are saying that if by December the elections are not held, the country might not necessarily enjoy the peace that is enjoying. Now, nobody knows what action they're going to take, but what was your sense?
Well, a lot of Congolese that I spoke to are cautiously optimistic about the future. They think that by prolonging this election, it's not good for the country. But they are hopeful that at the end of the day, Kabila will live up to his word, and they promise to hold him accountable. You look at a lot of the other people that I talk to, especially people on the streets, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They don't know what's going on. If you talk to Kabila people, Kabila is not going anywhere. He has taken cue from these other leaders on the continent, in the region. He wants to play the same game. So when you talk to opposition leaders, they say he's trying to use the same yardstick to play politics. And that's why they are cautiously optimistic about what's happening in Congo.
In Shaka, when you look around the neighboring countries of DRC, of course, you have Rwanda, where the president is going to stay in for a little bit of time. You go to neighboring Uganda, President Museveni, well, those who support him in parliament are trying to change age limit so he can run again. And several others in the region are doing the same thing. What prevents him from saying, well, I will follow suit?
He's definitely in very good company, especially because, in fact, if you just cross the river, the Congo River, you're talking about Sassou Nguesso, the president of the Republic of Congo, which used to be known as Congo-Brazzaville. This is a man, of course, who, like other peers in the neighborhood, have actually been in the business of shifting political constitutional goalposts so that they could pretty much serve as presidential monarchs. You had south of the DRC, we're talking about Angola, where you had José Eduardo dos Santos. After 38 years in power, he has apparently stepped aside, and there is a new president.
Right.
But guess what? When you look at the political dynamics in Angola, the MPLA is pretty much subordinate. I mean, the state, the government, as it were, is pretty much subordinate to the MPLA. And guess who is the chairman of the MPLA? José Eduardo dos Santos.